Right, can you tell me how to take temperature data?
Um, you hold it like this, and then for about 3 minutes in a shady place, and then you don't grab right here because that can that can mess up the data. And then you grab it right here and you check it just like you hold it up to eye level and you check it just like this.
All right, guys, tell me how to read a rain gauge.
You look at the bottom, not the top. You look at the bottom. There's like a little U-shaped in the water, so you look where that is, and that's how you measure it.
Excellent. And where do you put it when you read it?
Eye level.
Eye level. Excellent. Good job. Hey nature coaches, so I just finished teaching the first week of our nature club. So I just taught the weather lesson and it went really well. I wanted to share a few things with you just that I noticed that I think that might be beneficial for you to notice too. So one thing that we focused when we were introducing weather, immediately after we talked about what weather was, which is basically the condition of the atmosphere, we started comparing weather from Albuquerque versus the East Mountains. Albuquerque gets less than 10 inches of rain a year. East Mountains gets about 15. Then we looked around us and we were like, okay, how are the plants different? Well, out here there are a lot of trees. In the city, especially in the natural spaces like on the west side, there aren't very many trees. All right, so let's connect weather. What's different? Temperatures are higher in the city, temperatures are lower in the mountains. And so we tend to have plant communities in the mountains that need more water and lower temperatures, like these pinyon pine trees. And in the city, they don't have many trees. And they might have a few junipers, and it's because their rainfall is so much lower and the temperatures are so much higher. So we really tried to connect this idea that, hey, the weather and climate of your region largely affects the types of plants that are there. And then we talked about our 5 plant species. And then we went into going over how we, sorry, how we take temperature data and how we take rainfall data. How we read our, well, actually both, the thermometer and the rain gauge. We always read them at eye level. With the rain gauge, we read the meniscus, which is the lowest part of the U on the rain gauge. And with the thermometer, we read the highest level of the red line or blue line or whatever it is. And we always have multiple students check. So typically what I do is I divide them into groups. One group collects rain data, one group collects temperature data, and then they share with each other. And each group, each student has to read it. So they all have to read the thermometer, they all have to read the rain gauge, and it just gives them practice. The one thing that you may want a little bit more time for is the graphing. So I've done graphs with the kids before and it's never been easy, but for some reason with the groups this year, it was a little bit more difficult than I expected. And so either take a little bit more time for graphing. You actually can start graphing while you start doing temperature. So temperature takes 3 minutes. Actually, it takes a total of about 5 really to kind of get the whole thing. So while one kid is over to the side holding the thermometer and waiting on the temperature, then the other kids can be going ahead and setting up their graphs. Personally, I did mine for the temperature data, I did mine from 40 degrees to 100 degrees. And for the rainfall data, I did it from 0 centimeters and 0.51, 1.52, 2.53, just to kind of have those different levels. But they have a hard time knowing where to put the what data to put on the axes, and they also have a hard time lining up the 2 axes to create a data point. And this is really good information to know because number 1, you can plan out a little bit more time, but number 2, this is an absolutely vital skill. Kids need to know how to be able to read graphs and create graphs. And so it gives you an opportunity to teach a really fun STEM skill in a fun way. And they're going to be doing it every single week. So by the end, they're going to have it down. They're going to be experts at this and it's going to be great. But until then, just FYI, you might have to go a little bit slower and you might have to take a little bit more time in the graph. So you might want to kind of put it in. And then I'm going to share some pictures of nature drilling sheets with you guys. But basically, I just had them draw a picture of what it looked like to read a rain gauge and what it looked like to read a thermometer. And it's just reinforcing this idea that just the process, reinforcing this idea of reflection, right? I did this activity, I remember doing this activity, now I'm drawing a picture about doing this activity, and it's gonna help them remember for the next week. And the questions that the students were, so the nature mystery, really the answer for us, we put down temperature and rain. Those are the two things that they're measuring. Those are what we're gonna be using to describe weather in our area. And then for the, this reminds me of, that's where kids can just write anything. Maybe it reminded them of a rainy day back in June or whatever. And then finally on the questions, some kids were like, I don't really understand what temperature is. So that's what they wrote down. Another kid, we saw this really massive beetle flying around, and that kid's question was, what was the name of that large beetle? And even though it doesn't relate to weather, in my opinion, it's okay, because it's relating to their experience that they had within the hour of being in the nature club. So I hope that helps. I hope that gives you a little bit more direction, and I hope that helps you prepare a little bit better. All right, you guys, have a good week.